questions, let's invite rest of management up for a full panel. And I'll step over here. And we'll start by addressing the people question. Cool. And while my colleagues come up, I'll just introduce Tanja Sabro. You haven't seen Tanja on stage before. Tanja is a long time with Novo Nordisk, has spent many years with Mike in international operations, and since a year or so, leading our people and organization team as Executive Vice President. So Tanja, there was a question on all the new colleagues we are onboarding.
Exactly, and it is correct that of course we are scaling and I would say shaping the organization in line with our strategy. So that also means adding a lot of new people. And last year alone, we welcomed around 9,000 new employees. We grew around 17% in our employee base. And year to date, we are growing still around 15%. So that is a lot compared to what we have been used to. You saw we're used to single-digit sales growth, and we were also used to single-digit employee growth for quite a while. But in the last 2 to 3 years, we're talking more like 12, 13, 15%. And I think that's a great opportunity. The majority of those employees are in Henrik's shop, as you can probably gather. Around 70% is driven by the manufacturing roles, but also across the board in development, clinical, digital, we are also growing. So exciting, but also, you know, a challenge to absorb so many. So we have a keen eye on onboarding, on our purpose, on culture, on leadership, to make sure that we welcome people and also retain them. So not only that they come in, but we can actually keep them for a good period of time.
Thank you, Tanja. Pete?
Pete Vidal, Citigroup. Dave, just a question for you. Now that every man, woman and dog is trying to get into obesity, and I'm not going to ask you to talk about targets, but just the environment to do BD now in the metabolic area. I mean, you've done some interesting deals in the last couple of years, but you know, it's intensifying. So just, you know, are you finding it more difficult to find, you know, good deals that are attractive both from a clinical sense and commercial sense and valuation?
Yeah, thanks for that, Pete. It's a dynamic space right now, right? Every couple of weeks, we update our trackers, and there's new programs that have been added to that. But our focus is to ensure that it aligns with where we think the obesity market is going and aligns with our internal strategy. And so we're very diligent about, does this add to what we have internally? You've seen some of that today. It's a high bar. And the valuations, you know, are certainly increasing based on what they see this market. We think there's opportunity for us to still use external innovation to add to our obesity pipeline, and we'll continue to do that.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, in the back.
Hi, good afternoon. Rajesh Kumar from HSBC. You just touched on the point on M&A in answer to Peter's question. If, let's say, the market scenario for your, you know, current consensus numbers for your obesity drug plays out, there will be a lot more cash flow coming out of Novo Nordisk than you can reinvest through R&D, right? One question: would you revisit the thresholds on IRRs you have set for reinvest into M&A? Or did you compare it with share buybacks? How do you compare it with share buybacks in terms of that capital allocation piece? I.e., do you stick to your 4 core therapeutic areas, or do you actually step out because you think that would be in better interest of shareholders than buying back shares or some, you know? Just any thoughts on that would be much appreciated.
Yeah. So let me maybe start, and then Carsten, you can maybe comment a bit on capital allocation. So we strongly believe in making a strategic choice based on capabilities, and in that lies also an ambition to over time broaden capabilities. And you can see from Marcus's presentation that we have a stronghold in the classical Novo Nordisk peptide protein area, and we're gradually expanding that. We also believe there's value in a relative tight focus on disease areas, and we actually believe that we are broadening the options in that space. And it's not likely with a successful execution of that strategy that you'll see us be very aggressive on M&A, because we believe the biggest return we can generate for our shareholders is actually doing the value creation inside Novo Nordisk, complemented with external innovation like you have seen us do increasingly. And I'm actually pleased with the team's ability to pick assets that at least looks to turn into valuable additions to the pipeline. Obviously, this is a tough space with certain likelihood of success, but I think we can actually demonstrate that we're both capable of coming up with in-house innovation, but also complementing that with external innovation that is meaningful, and then we deploy our own capabilities to maximize the value. And then maybe, Carsten, you can always debate how smart it is to buy shares back with the price as they are today. So as a CFO, how do we argue for that?
No, so I say, coming back to my strategic capital allocation cheering that I presented in my slide, share buybacks are number 4, and BD is tier 3. And I'll say we have assessed a lot of BD opportunities over the last few years, and the vast majorities of opportunities that dropped off, they dropped off due to strategic or scientific reasons, and not due to IR thresholds. Not said that we don't have the IR discipline or the valuation discipline, but the vast majority drops off for other reasons. So yes, share buyback, that's the residual. We don't want to have excess cash on our balance sheet. Then we buy back shares, but that we only do after we invested in our business, we pay dividends, and we executed on attractive BD opportunities within our strategic therapy areas.
Thank you. Richard?
Just coming back to Richard Vosser from JP Morgan, just coming back to the new formulation of CagriSema, given we know that the pH is different from the two products, I mean, could we just get a bit more detail on how you're going to work through that, given that was, I suppose, previously thought nearly impossible?
Yeah. So I don't think we can go into a lot of details around that. I trust you understand that. But it's clear that we don't mention it on the slide unless we see a way to actually test this out in a clinical trial. So you should assume we'll do that, and then we'll see how that plays out. Thank you, Mike.
Michael Novo from Nordea. Just another GLP-1 question on oral semaglutide. It's always, or last couple of years, been sort of 25-50 milligrams pending appropriate commercial availability of supply. Where are we standing now on sort of the pending part, 25, 26? When is it appropriate to sort of fully launch 25-50 milligrams?
Yeah, should I give that a crack also? Because so the way we look at it, we are building, say, a really broad portfolio of optionality, and I think also a deep portfolio. So I think we can play to win in the injectable space based on what you have seen today, highest efficacy and also scalable products. And I think we can also play to win in the oral space, but you have to distinguish here a bit between the different technologies we have. If you take the snack-based innovation, oral sema or oral amycretin, obviously it has a lower bioavailability compared to when we go injectable, so it takes more API. So we look at that as an opportunity for us to win, say, in higher priced markets, where we can win on efficacy. I think we have the opportunity of demonstrating by far the strongest efficacy compared to what we see being developed. But it's not a technology that lends itself for being, say, the dominating global rollout. That will have to be injectable. That's also why we have acquired Inversago, which is, in our view, real small molecule. So something that's really scalable, also compared to what you see out there in terms of small molecule GLP-1 plays. And we actually believe it will have an attractive efficacy point. Obviously, there's a safety event to be cleared. So when we look at that broad portfolio, we are looking at our options and also how the market will develop. And I actually think we have what is required to win in the different segments. But we would like to make the trade-offs as we have the full data set also on the higher dose semaglutide data that we'll be reading out, and then play with that portfolio to win in the different markets. Yeah. Mark?
I just stole it.
Okay.
Martin Parker.
Yeah, we know you, Mark.
Exactly. Just a question for the two guys in the middle, and you can arm wrestle around the volumes that you get. But it seems like, has been a big difference between the growth rates in the two markets, because back in 19 you had to help Doug with some muted guidance, we can say, and now it's Doug who's in the driver's seat. When should we expect to get more balance between these two regions?
When should Mike start selling more? Is that the question?
I think more.
The good news, Martin, is that we're both in the same car, and only one person takes the steering wheel, so we are going straight. On a serious note, I think what is happening right now, what happened back in 2016 was a one-off event, and I think it was very nice that Novo Nordisk had the international capability and presence to be able to basically offset some of the loss of prices in US. What is happening right now is not unusual. We launch our products always in US, also partially because of regulatory affairs. And then as that launch gets going, European launches starts, and then eventually we go to Japan and China, and emerging market follows. We are following the same principle as we've done, during my 35 years here. But of course, right now we really need to make sure that when we are coming to international operations, we're doing it responsibly. I would not like to launch any product on a Monday only to run out of it on Friday. That is not any of my general managers want to do. So we better kind of have that balance, and I do think we have a wonderful balance right now in order to kind of wait a little bit longer and then launch properly in international operations. I think it's balanced.
So Mike always talks more than me, and I'll just simply say it's really it's nice to work for an organization that puts the patients at the center, and we take that into account with allocations as well. So it's really nice to see. Right.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. It's Mark Purcell from Morgan Stanley. Maybe starting off with you, Martin, but in terms of the new technologies coming through in obesity, sRNA, you didn't talk about that side of your Discerner platform today. I guess non-GLP-1 orals, which Lars you just spoke about with Inversago, and then there's antibodies as well. Apart from Inversago, you don't appear to be playing, certainly yet in the clinic, in these three settings. So do you see those as the three settings that could be most disruptive to your business? And how do you ensure that you participate in your own disruption in terms of gaining access to these technologies or being a partner of choice as the commercial space gets more competitive as more large cap biopharmas enter the obesity space?
So maybe, Marcus, you could talk a bit to different mechanisms, and then Dave, you can talk a bit to how you see us being a partner of choice.
Yeah, so thanks for that question. Obviously, with the siRNA space, we're opening up that world. And as you know, siRNAs have been deployed traditionally more in the rare disease space, and this is where we also see advanced clinical programs with other companies. But now actually this next wave is coming, particularly in cardiovascular and liver diseases, and you see Mark1 and LXR in our pipeline. But the next wave we actually expect internally also are compounds that make it from obesity and diabetes. Now those could be, liver targeted, it could be also extra hepatic targeting. So I actually feel very confident that we're in a good place here, and not only have the technology, but also the combination with the biology understanding from that technology to be real leaders in that space. So I think, watch this space, what is yet to come. So I feel reasonably good. And the value proposition here is obviously, again, precision, the ability to go intracellularly, but also to have, reasonably infrequent dosing. And I think that is something very important for us to pursue. Yeah.
Thank you, Marcus. Dave?
Yeah, and then I think it just comes down to the way we approach partnering here at Novo Nordisk. And when an external team has an opportunity to meet the folks in Marcus and Martin's group, they see what it was like to work with us. And we're very open in terms of the way we partner, whether it be a collaboration, it could be a license, it could be an acquisition, if that makes sense. But they really see the value of our 25 years of research in obesity. They really see the value in how we run clinical trials and keep patients on for 4 years. And there's no question about our ability to supply and bring it to market. And so I think we'll keep getting those calls, and we're going to continue to listen.
Thank you. Yeah, in the back.
Thank you. Eric Lemerigo, Stifel. It looks like the market is very happy with you not updating your midterm targets. But there's one maybe where you could say a few more words. It's the over 25 billion obesity in 25, since in this case it has been exceeded already. So probably there's been debate internally about to do or not to do, push and pulls. Maybe you can tell us what were the pull and push and why we decided not to do. And then since you're doing a very detailed consensus internally, you can see that consensus is already well above the 25. And so maybe you can say if you're comfortable, very comfortable, or very, very comfortable with the 25 obesity numbers in consensus. Thank you.
Yeah, so maybe, Camille, if you can talk a bit to how we look at the opportunities without revealing any numbers. And Carsten, you can talk a bit to how we look at providing guidance.
Yeah, so if I start on the potential, we saw today that there is, a huge number of people that are living with obesity. If you look at our pipeline, even what we have on the market right now, we have an opportunity to make a major difference. So that's what we are planning for. And so therefore to set a specific target towards 2025 when this target expires is maybe a very, very short term, giving the long-term opportunity that this really is. And we have been, we just focus on making sure that we continue to roll out what we have in our pipeline, and that we continue to build our pipeline, exactly as we discussed earlier in the obesity session. That's really our focus. And getting the exact number exactly right is less of our focus. We're really driving towards the purpose in terms of defeating obesity. And that's also why we are not just focusing on treatment, but has also established this prevention unit to use some of our abilities. You heard maybe about AI today also, and how we can understand more and more about this disease so we can truly expand our presence in the field and make sure many more patients are treated. That's our focus, rather than a single number.
Thank you, Camilla. And Carsten, you're head of guidance.
Yeah, so head of guidance, that's a new title. So Eric, of course we assessed as part of preparing for the Capital Markets Day in terms of our strategic aspirations, and that's also why in Lars' opening he covered that we're not updating our strategic aspirations, and the base reason is simply that they run until 25. So we believe that's a meaningful time horizon to close them out before we set new ones. So if we updated the obesity target now, then implicitly it would be guidance for 25 sales, which I know a lot of people would love, to have an opinion about whether it's too small or too big. But that's why we refrain from putting in a new number. I trust you sense that we're pushing with everything we have, especially supplies, to maximize the opportunity in obesity. And then to your second part of the question, vis-a-vis consensus for 25 and obesity, then as you know, we provide guidance on an annual basis, And when you look at our growth drivers, it's fairly straightforward if you think about Ozempic, Wegovy, and Rybelsus really explaining the majority of our sales growth as a company. And we have delivered guidance for 24. So I think per definition, then it's only a 25 number in consensus, which I think is more on sell side to have an opinion about than to me, at least publicly.
Thank you, Carsten, and thank you to my colleagues. With that, we close the panel Q&A, and I leave the floor to you, Carsten.